in your design team, I guess people report to the design manager, the design lead. How does that work in a cross-functional team? Do people still report to kind of their functional leads, or do they report to the team lead? Sri, can you explain how that works in your team?
Yes. So in ours, the product leadership is given by the product lead in the team. So they make all the decisions around the product. But the team itself, individuals report to their own individual direct managers. That is pretty much the setting that I've worked with in the past with Fishbrain, but also at Worldline Global as well. That most of the cross-functional team were having the product as the leader to decide the vision and like direction of the product that they were leading, but all of them were indirectly, they were managed by their own direct manager who had that specialty.
Great, so kind of a matrix type
organization. Yes, exactly. So all the similar to what Mikaela does, we had like design, head of design leading all the designers, but they were still part of the individual product teams in terms of the product deliveries.
Great. And Matti, is that the same structure for your teams, or how are you structured?
No, we structure in a slightly different way. So I'm used to working in that kind of environment as well. But what I've seen, from my experience, that it means that you have lots of communication going on around that team to make sure what's happening in the team. For example, that you have several managers for different people in the team, and then you have maybe a agile coach that help out in the team, and then you have a product manager or something like that. So we have try to simplify it at Viaplay. So we have just one manager for everyone in that team. It's an engineering manager that's taking care of the team members when it comes to individual growth and how they can develop in the role as developer and designers. So the designers in the team reporting to the engineering manager. Then they have all the teams have a product managers that brings the clarity to the teams what to do and such. And then we also, of course, push down so much as possible down to the team so they can take the decision themselves and be empowered.
Great. And I guess that sounds like a great kind of structure, but is there ever any conflict? So does the engineering manager kind of force more of an engineering culture versus, I guess one of the arguments for having the different leads might be that there's more of a balance in the team.
Yeah, you can argue that you cannot be leading people that you don't have the deep understanding of that domain. I would say it's more about to have someone that support you in how you can grow and thrive in your role, and be that sounding board and bounce ideas and such, and having more a coaching stance. That said, I think it's super important to have a good foundation to stand on. So therefore, I think that having like a career development framework for engineers and designers and other roles in the team is super important to have. So you have some clear expectation what is expected from you in your role. Yeah.
Can I just because I think it's a good approach, and I think also like depending on how senior you are, like how long you worked, I think that's a good approach to be able to like, okay, I'm very comfortable in my role. I mostly just need someone to bounce ideas off, and I need someone to hear me out and like be that kind of coach. But depending on if you're like earlier in your journey, there might be that you actually want someone to get feedback on actual design or like actual development or like learning something new. Like when you're in that part of your career, then maybe you need a bit more of a buddy system than having, you know, like just someone to be able to like bounce ideas off of and kind of redefine your own thoughts in a way, or like structure them in a way, but you kind of still know what you're doing, if that makes sense.
Yes, I totally agree. And that the mechanism we have for that is that we have a community of practice structure where the designers, they meet up and can actually doing that kind of thing that you're talking about, Mikaela, bounce ideas and have someone that can actually review what you're doing when it comes to design. So we have that mechanism for that, and that we have for all different crafts, so to speak, like for mobile developers, backend developers, and so on.
Great. Yeah, we'll jump on that topic, actually, communities of practice, because that's often kind of what people say is the counterbalance to a cross-functional team, that you still need that community that focus very deep on a particular craft. But one of the experiences that I've had is that without having that built into the organization, it might start off really well. There might be 3 or 4 get-togethers. Everybody's really enthusiastic, but it then just fizzles out, and they kind of disappear. So what do you do in order to make sure that that doesn't happen in your organizations? I'll give that one to Mikaela.
Oh, putting me on the spot. I think it's a trial and error kind of thing. It's all about iterating. I think if you try something and you do it for 4 times, but then people start to fade off, or like if there is no value in it anymore, then you need to kind of rethink it and maybe like tweak it a bit or do something else. I think it's super dangerous to get stuck in like, we need to do this like 4 times a week, but like if the team or like the people is not getting what they want from the situation, we kind of need to change it up a bit. So I think what I'm trying to do is like, I'm trying to approach it and say, let's try it for 3 weeks and then we can evaluate. Can we do something more? Do we need more time, less time? What do we want to focus on? So yeah, just like and sometimes you have to stick to it to get some results.
And a more experimental kind of see what works and what doesn't, what people are interested in.
Yeah, exactly. And let the team decide what is value, what is valuable, what do you want to learn more about, that kind of stuff.
And I think if you have like a guild or chapter, it's very important to kind of define the purpose, and that should come with the members in the chapter and the guild as well. Because what I think can be dangerous, or like what we felt was a challenge when I was working at Worldline was we had an engineering manager set up where we had like all the different technical competencies and other competencies that were led by one engineering person. But what we started to realize were all the QA people like, but he doesn't understand what end-to-end QA is like. So when I tried to talk to him about what is important for my development, doesn't get it, right? And then we started to exactly what Mikaela said, we created chapters, but then we saw there was a conflict, like because the chapters set certain rules and how to do really good QA, how to do really good design. But then when it came in conflict with how to do, in terms of product priority, there was a conflict, right? So I think it's a very good, it's good to experiment, but it's also very good, very important to define what their different purposes are, so that, and what do you want to learn from it, so that you don't start to conflict those different channels, whether it's the product team, who is the decision maker around what and why, and then like if you have the chapters in the communities, what is the purpose of them and how do you incorporate that learning into your different product teams. So I think that kind of is very important. We should be very clear about what we are trying to learn and how to incorporate that in our existing channels so we don't create those conflicts.